Hello, my name is Justin Irans. I'm going to talk about three news stories that I read, and whether these news stories follow INVEN test. So INVEN stands for independent versus self-interested, multiple sources versus online sources, uh, verifies and asserts, authoritatives, and informed versus uninformed, as well as named versus unnamed. So my task is to dig deeper and evaluate whether these news stories follow this INVEN test. So the first news stories that I read is titled "Vicious Assault Shakes Texas Town." So the source of this news story is the New York Times. So starting whether this news story is independent or self-interested. So according to how the news stories is structured and written, can see that the writer is independent because he both quoted each side involved in the story, which are the police and the arrested student, as well as the assaulted young girl. So talking about sources, whether it is the news story has one source or multiple sources. So again, when try to see how the news story is structured, this news story has many sources of information. So for example, the information was gathered from different sources, such as for example, the information came from school leaders, neighbors were assaulted, where the assaulted young girl lived, as well as the security of the school, and Sheila Harrison, who is a hospital worker. So moving forward, let's analyze the news according to how it is verified or asserted. So this, according to how this story is structured, I can see the story asserts the information. So according to my own personal opinion, so the reason behind this is that the writer emphasized on two or not two valid evidence. For example, the writer quoted a person who talked what the assaulted young girl wore. So probably this is not a very important information. Moving forward, according to how the news story is authoritative versus uninformed, I can see that this story is an informed one. So this is because the writer quoted different people who don't have prior information of the problem, such as, for example, the neighbors of the assaulted girl and other residents. So whether the news story is named or unnamed, of course, this news story has different named sources of the information, such as Sheila Harrison and also Gatrin. So this shows how the story is named by different sources. So in my own opinion, I can see that the news story is credible because many different reasons. For example, the author used different named sources. Again, he is independent because he both quoted each side involved in the story. However, he mentioned different sources where he got the information. Moving forward, let me talk about another news story that I read, which is titled "Apple Announces iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus, the biggest advancement in iPhone history." So the source was Apple Press Info. So this story is independent because the writer has talked both iPhone 6 and iPhone 6 Plus, and the major topic being discussed in as the major topic being discussed in the news. They also have highlighted what is best to both two versions of phones. Again, the news story is it has one source of information. They cited Tim Cook as Apple CEO. So this shows how the story lacks multiple sources of the information. Again, this news story assert the information. So the reason behind is that few people were quoted to provide enough and accurate information of both those two versions of phone. This shows how the story does not verify the information. Again, this story is authoritative, though it doesn't have multiple sources. But however, the only person quoted has prior and accurate information of what was being talked in the story. Again, this story is named because the writer used crucial named source of the information. The CEO, for example, the CEO of the company is good enough to rely on when seeking for the information. So, in general, according to my opinion, the story is credible since there is named source of the information, and the writer is independent, and it has the date as well as the news publisher, which is April Press Info. Talking about the last news story that I read, which is called Boston Bombing Suspect Died, a massive manhunt for second the White Hat suspect. The source was CBC News. Based on how the story is structured and written, the writer is independent. He's independent because they have quoted almost every person involved in the story. For example, the people involved are Boston Police Commissioner Edward Davis and Timothy Alben of the Massachusetts State Police, as well as the suspect. Moving forward, according to how the news story is written, this news story has multiple sources. So, for example, the information was gathered from different sources, such as the federal sources, CBC News Senior, the Middlesex District Attorney, and so many others. So therefore, all the above sources show how the story used multiple sources. Again, according to how this story is structured, this news story verifies the information. So this is because the writer collected different evidence from different sources to make the story tangible. So whether the story is authoritative or uninformed, I can see that the story that I read is authoritative or informed. So the reason is that the writer quoted different people who have prior and important information of the suspect. Whether the story is named or unnamed, this story has multiple named source of the information. There was named people with their job titles, such as Boston Police Commissioner Edward Davis and Timothy Alben. So, in my own opinion, this story is credible because of how it is structured. So for example, there is a publisher of the news, as well as the date of publication. Again, there is different pictures throughout the story. So thank you very much for following.